It was a memorable evening in Paris as the 2024 Paris Olympics opened in style with thousands of athletes from all around the world sailing in boats on River Seine as they went past famous landmarks, waving to thousands of spectators lined up on the banks. Celine Dion wowed the crowds. Lady Gaga performed. Eiffel Tower was lit up beautifully. World leaders descended to watch the ceremony, and then the incredible cauldron lighting. It really was beautiful. The 2024 Games promised an opening ceremony like no other, and it was delivered. Despite the weather trying its best to dampen the spirits as the top athletes of the world stood in pouring rain to soak in the Parisian sights and sounds. A very good morning to all of you. I'm Meha Bhardwaj, and if you were in the land of snooze during that opening ceremony, here we are to help you keep up. Let's begin then. French President Emmanuel Macron declared the Olympic Games open on Friday after a soaking wet ceremony in which athletes were cheered by the crowd along the Seine River. Dancers took to the roofs of Paris. Lady Gaga sang a French cabaret song. France's three-time Olympic gold medalists Marie-Josée Pérec and Teddy Riner then lit the Olympic cauldron, suspended on a hot air balloon before Canada's Celine Dion sang Edith Piaf's Hymn to Love in her first public performance in years, drawing huge cheers from the crowd. The 30-meter high balloon carrying a 7-meter diameter ring of fire took to the air and was hovering dozens of meters above the ground. It will be in the air from sunset until 2 a.m. local time every day. The organizers have said a fleet of barges then. They took the competitors on a 6-kilometer stretch off the river alongside some of the French capital's most famous landmarks as performers recreated some of the sports to be showcased in the games on floating platforms. More than 10,500 athletes will compete at the Olympics, 100 years since Paris last staged the games. Competition started on Wednesday, and the first of the 329 gold medals will be awarded on Saturday. While the celebration of French culture, fashion, and history was warmly cheered by many of the 300,000 spectators lining the river. Hundreds were seen leaving early as the rain fell, but then there were thousands who stayed there. Many world leaders and VIPs were present. The ceremony was protected by snipers on the rooftops. The Seine's riverbed was swept for bombs and Paris's airspace was closed. 45,000 police and thousands of soldiers were deployed in a huge security operation in Paris for the ceremony. Armed police patrolled along the river in inflatable boats as the Armada made its passage along this River Seine. A mix of French and international stars, including soccer great Zinedine Zidane, 14 times French Open champion Rafael Nadal, 23 times Grand Slam champion Serena Williams, and 3 Paralympic athletes were among the last torch bearers before the cauldron was lit. It was a beautiful ceremony, and as you can see there, Rafael Nadal with the torch, Zinedine Zidane passing the torch to Rafael Nadal, and finally that cauldron was lit. But France and Paris in particular, Paris Games organizers had promised that they will deliver something that we've never seen before, and that's exactly what happened. Traditionally, we've seen opening ceremonies in stadiums, but this, right in the heart of the city, the beautiful Paris, city of lights, we saw this incredible extravaganza. Scintillating, glitzy opening ceremony. And as it's rightly written on your screens, an evening to remember in Paris. So Lady Gaga, she sang a French cabaret classic near Notre Dame Cathedral to kick off the opening ceremony. And like I've said, there was Lady Gaga, there was Celine Dion, and they wowed the crowds. There was also the French Malayan pop star Aya Nakamura. She showed her moves. She performed her biggest hits. And as you can see, Lady Gaga, always a performer. She was wonderful in that French cabaret song that she sang. Athletes were cheered on at the same time as she was singing. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who will co-star in a movie version of Wicked, they walked on the red carpet ahead of the ceremony. But as you can see, this was a huge moment. And this was quite a surprise because not many knew that Lady Gaga would be performing. Celine Dion, beloved among the French, she ended the night on a dramatic turn, performing Hymn to Love. And actors and music celebrities from Michelle Yeoh to Lang Lang and John Legend, they watched the festivities along with world leaders and the general public. And this is all happening in pouring rain, where dancers have taken to the roofs of Paris in a 4-hour show that highlighted Paris's architecture and the country's history.
We went to Los Angeles. We worked with dancers there. Then we worked with dancers in France. She didn't give up. She's someone who watches videos, who sees if this or that dancer doesn't point their foot right. It was almost worse than me, so I think she can be very, very proud. She's very proud. She's super happy. Me too, obviously. And I think that opening this ceremony with this performance by her and in French, we couldn't have dreamed of anything better.
President Macron and President Barr were very happy with this opening ceremony. They knew what will be going on because I shared the project with them. It was important for me to make sure that they were very, very aligned and also supportive with the ambition first. And they were very supportive with this level of ambition. They discovered also some surprises, and it was important for us also that to make sure that they will discover the entire ceremony tonight. But at the end of the day, I think they were also very proud of what we have done all together, because without the support of President Macron and President Barr, we could not have been able to deliver this opening ceremony.
We just did this morning the same things that we have done for years, which means to adapt a lot of things, to adapt where it was dangerous for some artists, some roof, for example, and we had to do these kind of things, but without losing, I think, the concept, without losing the spirit, and without losing any ambition. This is what we are trying to do since day one.
The Indian contingent taking part in the athletes parade during the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics on Friday were led by PV Sindhu and Achanta Sharat Kamal. 2 times Olympic medalist PV Sindhu was the flag bearer along with the legendary table tennis player Sharat Kamal. There were 78 athletes and officials from 12 sports disciplines. All the athletes who made themselves available for the ceremony were part of the parade. PV Sindhu and Achanta Sharat Kamal, they carried the tricolour in the opening ceremony. They were the flag bearers. IOA President P.T. Usha and Chef de Mission Gagan Narang, they've given top priority to the athletes in the composition of the contingent in this athletes parade. And like I said, around thousands of athletes on 90 boats, they traveled through a 6-kilometer route on the River Seine. So 4-time Olympian Sharat Kamal and PV Sindhu there. There was Prakash Padukone, They shared the boat with the Islamic Republic of Iran and Indonesian. Sharat Kamal was emotional. He said, people have been congratulating me in the last few days. It was a very overwhelming day and it's going to be a big day for all of us. The Indian athletes donned their traditional outfits featuring Ikat-inspired prints and Banarsi brocade designed by Tarun Teheliani. The men were draped in traditional kurta bandi sets while women wore saris. And look at them. Nothing can dampen their spirits. Even rain cannot dampen their spirits. And as you can see, they're all smiles carrying the dreams of 1 billion people. And these athletes are going to be participating in their specific events from today. Our shooters will be participating today in the mixed team, a 10-meter rifle event. But a moment that they will remember forever. Not just because they are carrying a nation's hopes and, this is a huge moment in an athlete's career, but because of how different and slightly bizarre at times this evening was for the athletes, not just the Indian athletes, but athletes from around the world. Normally when you go in for the Olympics, you expect the opening ceremony in a stadium, but here they were on these boats on River Seine in the heart of the city, passing various landmarks along the way, reaching then a beautifully lit Eiffel Tower to conclude this parade. And yes, weather tried very hard to play spoil sport, but in the end, that couldn't wilt their spirits. So the Indian contingent looking happy. Even PV Sindhu, she was extremely happy. She said, it was a great opportunity and a proud moment for both her and for Sharat Kamal, and a moment that she will remember forever. So the Indian contingent, they participated in that opening ceremony. And the big question now being asked is, can this Indian contingent do better this time around? Can they get more than 7 medals at the Paris Olympics? There were other dignitaries as well, and the fans lined up on the streets to look at the Eiffel Tower and how beautifully it was lit up. On one side of your screens, you can see fans soaking in the spirit of these Paris Games. And on the other side, in the Parade of Nations, it's the Indian team with the tricolour carrying the hopes of 1 billion people. Now, Parisians and the visitors in the French capital of Paris 2024 Olympics crammed into a warehouse bar to take in the opening ceremony and to feel the Olympic spirit of togetherness with friends, families, and hundreds of strangers. Olympic fever had been slow to build in Paris, where local residents have complained about street closures in the heart of the city, and local businesses have bemoaned a lack of trade as the French capital was transformed into an open-air fortress. But all of that seemed to be a thing of the past on Friday night at Ground Control, a warehouse bar which features several food truck-style eateries as patrons took in the show with jubilation and a sense of pride. Fans, were cramped in front of several jumbo screens. They cheered on the likes of Lady Gaga, Celine Dion. Take a look at this.
It was excellent, it was epic, something spectacular which we'll never get to see ever again. But it was really something out of this world. Though we got totally drenched, but it was all worth it.
I think the beginning was a little slow and the end part was much better.
And how about the ending of Celine Dion?
I know, that was a big surprise.
He was amazing.
It was a big surprise. We were kind of surprised. Beautiful. Especially riding on the horse was excellent.
I think the rain just added so much more to it. It made it very special. I think I'll never forget it.
Rain, snow, sleet. We're going to be there. We're going to be supporting our countries. I don't think rain is going to stop anybody. We're just excited to be here.
It's a really fun atmosphere. It's a shame that it's rained, but it's really something quite unique. It's completely different to any other opening ceremony which has happened before. And I think the French haven't pulled it off quite yet, but are pulling it off.
Now, air traffic above France was diverted on Friday as seen on Flight Radar, a live flight tracker website during the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. The ceremony comes just hours after a sabotage attack on the high-speed TGV rail network caused travel chaos across France and put the spotlight on the security risks at a time when the eyes of the world are on the country. The show started by depicting a fictional scenario in which the arrival of the Olympic flame went awry ahead of the extravagant show on the river to kick off the Summer Games. And, when the organizers decided that they were going to do this, that they were going to get thousands of athletes from all around the world on boats and, do a 6-kilometer parade on River Seine, there were many raised eyebrows because of the security risks involved in this. But Paris, and despite the fact that, in the build-up to these Olympics, there had been security lapses, fortunately, there was no such issue with security at the opening ceremony. And the Seine itself had been under scrutiny for water cleanliness, while simply the logistics of transporting thousands of athletes along this whole 6-kilometer stretch seemed ambitious. But Paris have pulled it off, and they've pulled it off by making sure that there were no security lapses. And that's why all the flights around Paris, around that, were all diverted. And as you can see in that flight tracker app, another thing to just make sure, given that that everybody was watching, this was a moment when Paris was the centerpiece attraction for everybody around the world. They made sure they pulled it off in the best way without any security issues, and that's exactly how they did this. All right, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. When we come back, how are the Indian athletes preparing for the Olympics? Who are our top contenders? We take a look at that as well, and a wrap really of what went on last night on the banks of River Seine, as well as of all the athletes when they were on those boats. We'll get you a complete lowdown of that ceremony.
Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this?
This is News9 Live, India's only digital exclusive live stream. For the early adopters, bringing you the news 24/7. For the smart audiences on the smartest TVs. News9 Live. Stream now on your smart TVs.
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world. Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
Welcome back to the special. We were talking about the opening ceremony of Paris 2024 Olympics, and what a grand opening ceremony it turned out to be, with thousands of athletes on different boats floating along on River Seine as they went around looking at landmarks across the city and eventually reached Eiffel Tower, where the cauldron was lit. A beautiful, beautiful moment in that Paris opening ceremony. Now, Tahiti, remember, also welcomed the 2024 Olympic surfing event on Friday with blazing sunshine, songs and Polynesian culture honoring the sport's ancient roots, a world away from the rain of the game's opening ceremony in Paris. At a beachside park 40 kilometers from the surfing venue of Tihupu, surfers poured sand from their home beaches into a communal vessel combining the different colors and textures to symbolize unity and respect for the ocean. Ceremonial artifacts and some dignitaries arrived in outrigger canoes and were carried up the back sand beach, where athletes paraded into a large tent. Host nation France naturally received the loudest cheers, especially for local Tihupu surfers. Athletes and officials danced with local performers wearing grass skirts and flower garlands before big screen TVs crossed live to Paris and a rain-soaked parade of nations. Back in Tahiti, residents and visitors chatted and strolled around a market set up next door, offering fresh vegetables and other local goods. Tahiti is 16,000 kilometers from Paris, but remember, it is hosting the surfing competition of these Olympic Games because it has one of the world's best waves, and beaches in France are mostly at that time flat at this time of the year, but in Tahiti is where you can get that kind of waves and the beaches right now. So the surfing competition being organized in Tahiti, and this is the opening ceremony. Coming back to the Paris opening ceremony, leaders from around the world, around the globe, from US First Lady Jill Biden, French President, of course, Emmanuel Macron, to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Spanish King Felipe. They attended the Olympic opening ceremony in Paris on Friday. So, like I said, security was going to be a huge risk, but Paris have pulled it off. It is an extensive list of dignitaries, and security measures were put in place to ensure that the event and the competition go off without a hitch. US First Lady Jill Biden was there. There was, like I said, the British Prime Minister, Spain's King Felipe VI. He was there among the heads of state and dignitaries at this opening ceremony. There were no Russian officials representing Vladimir Putin's government. They were not invited due to Kremlin's war against Ukraine. The Israeli delegation was heavily protected at the time of tension over Israel's continued bombardment of Gaza. Israel President Isaac Herzog, he was there. So this was a ceremony where we saw world leaders come in as well and be part of this big moment for France. And like we showed you earlier, but can't have enough of Lady Gaga, can we? Lady Gaga, she performed a French cabaret song near the Notre Dame Cathedral. A giant plume of blue, white and red smoke was seen high above the bridge over the River Seine. And a winged man played the accordion to ring in the 2024 Olympic Games. Now, this was a surprise for everybody, the fact that Lady Gaga performed there. Not many expected this, but in the end there was Lady Gaga, there was a wonderful Celine Dion who was there performing, and around 2,000 musicians, artists and performers were part of this ceremony. So there you have it. If you could not watch the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympics, it opened in spectacular style. A glitzy ceremony with Lady Gaga performing, with Celine Dion performing, and with thousands of athletes on the boats on River Seine, waving out to crowds on the banks, just passing through various landmarks in Paris, and eventually reaching the beautiful Eiffel Tower where the cauldron was lit. And the French President Emmanuel Macron, he declared the games open. Indian contingent, there are a lot of hopes pinned on them, but can they go one better than Tokyo? Can they even reach double digits? Is that possible? We are going to get you all the latest, not just on the Indian athletes in Paris, but international athletes as well. All the Olympic records that will be broken over the next 15 days. All the latest will be right here on News9 Live. For now, that's it from us. Have a good weekend. It was a memorable evening in Paris as the 2024 Paris Olympics opened in style with thousands of athletes from all around the world sailing in